that was a big series of statements, the Nuremberg Accords. And there's actually, in the current outbreak, oddly enough, or not oddly, there's a new push to revise those agreements so that forced vaccination with experimental products would be considered acceptable. This is part of the whole push to kind of engineer our vocabulary, with words like anti-vaxxer being extended to apply to anybody who is against vaccine mandates. And then that there was some kind of slippage away from global Western commitment to these standard ethics. They were never really bought off by Eastern nations like China, People's Republic. So there was some kind of drifting away from those ethics. And so there was another meeting that led to the Helsinki Accords that reinforced these principles and codified them more clearly. And then in the United States, we again strayed from the straight and narrow with things like the Tuskegee experiment. It's not the only example, which is, given rise to deep wariness by the African American population in dealing with the CDC and clinical research in general. So that prompted another revision and rethinking of all this in the United States that is called the Belmont Report. And then the Belmont Report was codified in federal law. I don't remember the specific CFR numbers, CFR 45 something or other. What is it, Joel?
Common rule.
Yeah, it's common. It's called the common rule it's generically, so you can look up common rule as laying out the ethics of experimentation in medical research and in general for medical practice. So you all understand, you and your audience. Well, you're too young. You haven't had a colonoscopy yet. I'm sure. I'm older. So you have something to look forward to. But any medical procedure that you've gone in for, or you may go in for, you look like you probably have hardly ever been in the hospital. But normally there is a disclosure of risks and benefits, and often it's not comprehensive, but the physician or surgeon that wishes to perform the procedure is recommending it. You have the right to question that person to the extent necessary for you to feel like you have had your questions answered. It's fundamental in terms of medical practice. There is in medical training, there is an awareness and a recognition that some patients like to be told what to do. That's just the truth. Mm-hmm. And so for some patients, I can tell you that when you approach them with this kind of more rigorous informed consent stance, they kind of said, "Doc, just tell me what to do and I'll do it." But you have to offer the full disclosure, and that's particularly true. So since I do clinical research, I have to be rigorously trained in this, and it gets reinforced. And frankly, if I veer from the straight and narrow, I am at risk for losing my ability to practice my craft of clinical research. So it's that fundamental. And in clinical research, for obvious reasons, it's particularly so that one does not enforce a medical procedure or an unlicensed medical product onto somebody without full disclosure of risks as deep as they want to go, and willing concurrence to accept the medical procedure for whatever reason. But it cannot be coerced. It cannot be enticed. It cannot be compelled. In the current situation, we fail on all three of those criteria because we have had coercion. That's the give the kids an ice cream cone to give them a jab, or shotgun lottery, or whatever the thing is. They cannot be compelled. Well, that's the government telling you have to do this, or coerced or enticed. All of the messaging over the media, get your shot. It's going to be a dark winter for you if you don't take your shot. all of that is all coercion. So that's technically illegal. And when I make these statements that is, in my opinion, the government's lawless, which, there's a great Daily Mail piece out that fact checked everything I said in the Rogan podcast, and most of the things they verified. The truth is that, in my opinion, I've spoken about the government acting in a lawless and illegal fashion, and I think that's easy to demonstrate that by all of the Supreme Court in 6th District Court and other court decisions that have overthrown the various federal mandates. So I think that's not a unjustified position. I think it's supported by the subsequent facts, but the lawlessness of our government through this transcends this. But this is certainly one example of it, in my opinion.